I want to recognize a few people that are in the room that do serve on various boards or in elected office, and if I forget anybody, I apologize, but my fellow councilman, Art Biggs, is here tonight in the back. Todd Brown, who serves on economic development, is here. John Pettigrew, who serves on the Economic Development and Planning Commission, is here. George Thornton, who also serves on our Planning Commission, is here. And Tracy Walsh, who serves on our hospital board, is here. And then team members that work in the county, Susie Spurgeon, our Emergency Management Director, is here. And Captain Chris Walsh is also here. So I appreciate you guys being here to learn right along with us. I'm a firm believer that an educated citizenry is an important part of us governing properly, and the growth that we're experiencing in this region is going to have an impact on our community. And I believe a rising tide lifts all boats, but it's important that we do it well and that we understand some of the causes behind the growth. So appreciate you being here. I'm going to ask, if it's all right, John Pettigrew, just to open up our evening with a quick word of prayer, and then I will introduce our speaker.
Let us pray. Our Father, our God, Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us today. And Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight and gather together. And Lord, help us to all come together and to give us the wisdom here in this county to make decisions that will be best for all citizens and will be pleasing to you, Lord. Pray that you just bless this meeting and give us all safe travels home. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Our speaker, Tom Clark, has a distinguished background, and he'll probably elaborate on it more while he's speaking. How I heard his presentation was I was at the local Rotary in North Augusta where he presented, and he's actually going to have a little bit more time tonight to talk about it than he did at our breakfast meeting. We only had about 15 minutes. He's going to talk for about 35 minutes. And then we will take questions and answers that you might have for about 15 minutes. But I have promised him that we will get him out of here by 7 o'clock tonight because he needs to be in Atlanta by the end of the night tonight. So, again, with that, Dr. Clark, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
I'm Tom Clark. I represent the Fort Gordon Cyber District. Before I get started, I'll put some of my business cards up here with my information on it, some links to our websites, and then an event that's happening at Fort Gordon on the 7th of December. What it is they do a local, they do a forecast forum, which means what is all the small business awarding they're going to do in the year of 2018. And they open it up to all the folks around in the different counties to come in and take a look at what they're competing for that year. It has Fort Gordon's growth will do cyber, but they need plumbers, they need construction folks, they're critically short engineers. And we'll talk about some of that when we go through my brief, but those handouts will be available at the front table. Next slide, please. This is kind of our challenge and also the challenge of the world right now. Because of the way that cyber has expanded so quickly, we do not have enough folks to fill jobs. You'll see right across the river where the governor came in, $50 million cyber innovation training center that will be up and operational by the end of June of 2018. Very quick build. And on that, they quickly went from 50 million to 62 million when they added a 300-seat auditorium next to that. And then last week, the governor announced another $35 million building, all going on the Golf and Garden facility downtown Augusta. Next slide. So I'm an ex-Army Command Sergeant Major. I spent 32 years in the military. I lived on a farm in Pennsylvania. My dad said, "Hey, you gonna do farm work?" I said, "No, that's too hard." As most of you know, caught chickens with red light bulbs, threw them into the crates and about 6 or 7 mornings of that, he asked me if I was enlisting, and I said, yes, I am. And off I went to the Army. And then 5 years as a project manager at General Dynamics working on Fort Gordon. Then I ended up in this job, where the Alliance's old job, some of you are familiar with, was to save the closing of Fort Gordon. Fort Gordon was targeted to be closed in the BRAC before. So in 2003, this organization, the Alliance for Fort Gordon, was stood up to prevent the closing of Fort Gordon in 2005. Well, 2 years ago, we figured that we could no longer run a nonprofit organization telling people that Fort Gordon was going to close when they were on one of 2 installations that has experienced significant growth in the last 5 years. Fort Gordon grew 1,000 people every year over the last 5 years. They grew 25% in size since 2012 and are on glide path to grow another 1,000 people this year. So we remissioned to help work with the cyber workforce, and you'll see some of those efforts here as we talk about it. Next slide. So you saw in our mission statement, we believe that this could be the cyber Silicon Valley of the South by 2020. And a lot of that has to do with certain bills that are coming to this area. And if we do not capitalize on it quickly, other folks will take over those opportunities. So we went from a board where we were a board of governance that kind of went out and gave briefings about Fort Gordon to a board of action and a board of committees. Our education committee is led by Ms. Karen Nixon from Augusta University. Our workforce development is led by John Dewey from Janus, and marketing by Mr. Paul Brewer, a TV consultant that is from North Augusta and this side of the river. So we're looking to help folks, and we'll talk about how all the counties around, we went into K through 12 systems and trying to get folks to use a system called NICER, where it takes cyber curriculum into the kindergarten through 12 tracks. And we'll talk about some of that. Next slide. This is our area. We call it the Fort Gordon Cyber District, 2 states and 7 counties. And you can see Edgefield is in that. And that is our MSA. So that's our MSA. I get calls from Wilkes County, why aren't we in it? We got to eat this elephant one bite at a time, and this is our initial bite out of there. But you can see that we removed all the county lines in my group, all right? Because on my board, one of the heads of Georgia Power sits right next to the head of Jefferson Energy, all right, one of the VPs from Jefferson Energy. Now, make no mistake, they care who gets the business, but if it doesn't come to this region, neither one of them gets the business. So we've erased these county lines right here and are concentrating on improving that area right there. Next slide. You can see quotes. We came out with a flip book. We started marketing this area as a cyber district, Fort Gordon Cyber District, with the hopes of dropping the name Fort Gordon and just changing it to the cyber district. But Senator Perdue, Todd Glover gave us a quote for there. He sits on our board. Will Williams from South Carolina. So there's representation from both sides of the river. But we believe that Augusta is uniquely positioned that you can go pretty much 2 hours anywhere from Augusta and be in the mountains, the ocean, the city, where you need to go. So that's the way we're selling. We're selling positive things about this region. Next slide. So why Fort Gordon? Why is Fort Gordon experiencing this great growth? Why did Fortune magazine name Augusta, Georgia as one of the dark horses of being the Silicon Valley of the South? There were 7 other folks that they named, but they also named Augusta. Augusta is the only one that has Fort Gordon, the Cyber Center of Excellence in its backyard, but it also has now the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center that the governor gave money to the state, and now will be downtown Augusta. They have the nuclear power plants that are in this area, the Savannah, Riverside. So many of those are absolutely favorable to our area. Next slide. We're going to talk about some of these focus areas. We'd love to talk to the superintendent out here and try and get nicer training. It's a cyber-infused training, K through 12. So people say, why would we teach a third grader about cyber? It's not really that. It's infused training. You're teaching them in music class to play the right chords to open the safe. So it's infused in the different classes. It's free and it's government funded. So we'd love to have an opportunity to come out and present that to your school. Next slide. Fort Gordon, what's the big deal about Fort Gordon? $2.6 billion a year economic impact on this region. And when it grows, so do folks around Fort Gordon. And lots of people think it's just post, it's government contractors. It's Mr. Tutt who cuts my hair in Augusta. It's, you know, the beauticians. It's the people who press clothes. It's all the people around there, people who have cattle so that they sell it to folks who buy beef. That's all of that grows together. You can see on there it is the largest employer in this region. A lot of this comes from impact aid. When you're assigned as a military child, then the schools benefit from folks being assigned to their school. Next slide. This is the Cyber Center of Excellence. Many of you know it as Fort Gordon was a signal center of excellence. When I went in the Army in 1979, Fort Gordon was a place that was people thought of it as that's where signal soldiers went to train. That is no longer the case. Over 68% of the folks on Fort Gordon now work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, protecting freedom and the American way of life. Right there from Fort Gordon. Some of those back buildings back there, I spent multiple tours in Iraq. I did not realize that all the UAV footage from Iraq comes back to Fort Gordon. The intel folks take a look at it there, and they provide real-time information to folks in the battlefield at both Iraq and Afghanistan. That happens right on Fort Gordon. Next slide. So a lot of folks say, well, what is moving to Fort Gordon? The 3-star command will move to Fort Gordon, what is called Army Cyber right now. That is what is moving to Gordon. 1,200 people, assigned people with 3,000 dependents are on the way to Fort Gordon by 2020. That's more additional growth coming here and a new 3-star headquarters. The 4-star headquarters is still in Fort Meade, Maryland, and will stay in Fort Meade, Maryland. So Fort Meade, Maryland grew, and so did Fort Gordon, Georgia. What will be totally different now is that you will have the TRADOC side of the Army that trains cyber right next to the operational side that you can get real-time lessons learned on one installation. First time that will happen. Next slide. You can see that Fort Gordon now is what they call a power projection platform. And a lot of old Army folks or military folks will say, how is cyber a power protection platform? They're looking at tanks and planes and those type of things. Now the cyber can take down your tank or plane, and that's why it's called a power projection platform. But there are more intel brigades on Fort Gordon now than anywhere else in the world. That used to be Fort Huachuca, Arizona. As Fort Gordon grows and they become home to Army Cyber, what they will position themselves to do is to soon become the Department of Defense home for cyber. Next slide. We'll talk about that. So there's over 55,000 acres on Fort Gordon. You can see 173 miles of paved road. They have churches, they have gymnasiums. It's just a city within a city. In fact, if it was its own city, the population there, with the retiree population that's around this 2-state, 7-county area, they will be up in the 90,000s, and they will be the 7th largest city in the state of Georgia. Next slide. So this is that growth that they talked about. They track it by unit. You can see the 1,000+ people each year that have come here. Most of the folks, about a high percentage of the folks live in Columbia County from the post. And then another percent live in Richmond County is the second highest, and then they move out to Grovetown and they're going past that. But there aren't homes to buy pretty soon, and they will be expanding in their area. And plus, these are folks that are different from the assignees before. When I got here, we did 3 to 4 year tours. Cyber professionals will have about 3 places they can go in the world, and one of them will be Fort Worth. And they will deploy from here. In fact, we're working now with the Augusta Airport to help them get a direct flight into DC. We've written a letter of support for that effort already. So you can see how many people have come, but let's talk about the infrastructure. So, from now to the last 10 years, Fort Gordon has put in $2 billion worth of infrastructure upgrades to that facility. $2 billion. And they will put another $2 billion into infrastructure improvements from now to 2028. That is tremendous growth. Next slide. We talked about the economic development, the construction bill. We'll talk about some of those projects. Hopefully we have some construction folks in here and some engineers, and they can compete for some of that work. Next slide. This is an artist rendering of that new 3-star headquarters. There is a video on our website that gives you a virtual fly-through, but this is state-of-the-art facility. But our challenge is to move those 1,200 people from DC. They're now deciding whether they're going to move into our area. Okay, about 30% of them have done that already. Some of them in the DC area think that Augusta is bib overalls and straws in their mouth. Okay, we have to change that, and we're getting them to visit here, and we're visiting there. But the fact is, you can sell them a house in Edgefield or Augusta for a lot less than what they're paying for an apartment up there, and their travel to work is tremendously improved. It may take me 7 minutes to go somewhere, but it takes them 7 maybe to get out of their garage, and onto the street. So we'll work that. With this comes 1,200 assigned people, 3,000 dependents. Next slide. This is that bill just over the river. An amazing facility that is going up quickly. If you haven't been over the river, first you look at the tremendous build they're doing on Project Jackson, right there in North Augusta. Cross right over the river, and you can see the governor's Cyber Innovation and Training Center. Now, the first building is for just that. They'll have the cyber range, the training facility there. They'll have a 300-seat auditorium. And then the new building, the $35 million, is for innovation and entrepreneurship and businesses to be located, co-located with the rest of the folks from that college. This is definitely changing downtown Augusta. 2 brand new hotels down there. I talked to a guy tonight who was lucky enough to buy a small coffee shop building that is located now right next to this facility. And all those college students will be making some money. Next slide. This is the construction effort going on for Fort Gordon right now. $1.6 billion worth of planned effort, but this is what's going on right now. You've been a project manager before. You can see that is a plethora of projects going on simultaneously. And those folks, part of this small business forum, be trying to find those engineers and folks that will bid on that work that's there. So if you know folks, small business folks, they may spend a half a day at Fort Gordon. Later on this week, it's on the 7th of December at 1 o'clock, half a day in Alexander Hall. All right, you do have to go a little early to get a gate pass. Next slide. This is the new cyber campus. Fort Gordon has buildings that were built in the 1960s, and they're training folks there currently in those buildings and temporary skip facilities. They will have a state-of-the-art campus that the builds and the design phase has already started. So Signal Towers, as many of you know it, will come down. All right, it will be replaced by this world-class facility, TSSCI facility, all being built on Fort Gordon. Next slide. This is some of those projects that are going on now, supported by major commands. I threw this in because it's from the Corps of Engineers. I mean, they're working the lock and dam right now, but they're also concentrating on these major military builds at Fort Gordon. Next slide. This is that new, we didn't talk about this yet. They did a $90 million build on the NSA facility. They call this Bike Ball. They call that area around it Sweet Tea, because all the great things in Georgia begin with sweet tea. This is a $90 million build to house that 3-star headquarters. This is the second $90 million build that will house the cyber protection teams. 20 teams of 38 people that deploy from Fort Gordon and go around the world to work cyber threat for our government. Next slide. This is some of that from the Corps of Engineers, the design, and then some of the timeline of building that new campus on Fort Gordon. So you can see that none of the builds really go out. They used to go out to 2028, and they just pushed those builds to the left to 2025. All right, so they're trying to get them done, completed. Next slide. Many folks talked about the backup at the gate at Fort Gordon when you enter it through Grovetown. Grovetown, if you haven't been there lately, is expanding tremendously. New houses are going up, old construction is coming down, but we will build. The Corps of Engineers and the Georgia Department of Transportation with Don Grantham came up with a plan to build a new Gate 6 about a mile away from the Grovetown gate headed towards Harlem. There'll be a brand new gate that goes out there, 6 lanes. It's a $40 million build, and we will need it because over 60% of the cyber folks will travel in from that gate. Next slide. So about 1,800 folks every year get out from Fort Gordon looking for a job. All right, that's about the transitioning service members that leave. When they did a survey of would you stay here if you had a job, this Fort Gordon scored very high, almost in the 70 percentile. And then you'll get the other 30%. They're going, like my wife graduated Butler High School, Augusta, Georgia. So we are living in Augusta, Georgia. All right, so that's a certain percentage that wives have traveled around with them. And so 70% of folks said they would stay in this area if they had a job. That is huge. Next slide. Fort Gordon is an open post. If you don't know that, you can go there. You can go to the dinner theater. You can go to bingo. Bingo on Fort Gordon is a multi-million-dollar a year bingo parlor. The #1 bingo parlor in the Department of Defense. I'm 56 and I am a young man when I go to bingo. But I can tell you, I think that they're governed different because of their grandfather rules and those type of things. But we love to go to bingo. But all of that is check of you, and then you apply for a gate pass. Next slide. This is kind of our cyber district. Take a look at it. We have 2 brand new dynamic websites, and what we did on those websites is we included Edgefield in there, so if somebody is the administrator of your links and you look at what we're displaying for Edgefield and you want me to change it, please help me change it. All right, but we included it in there. We started our website with live, work, and play type of things that are across the 2 states and 7 counties, so a person could go in and look at one website for this whole region. And we quickly realized that we left out learn. Folks, military folks and other folks will move where they think their children are safe and they can go to a good school. All right, people always ask me, where did you move to when you went somewhere? It was 3 things really. Was it safe? Did my kids go to a good school? And could I resell it 3 to 5 years and not lose any money? All right, so those were kind of my drivers. Next slide. So that's kind of the presentation with most of the majority of the time for your questions about Fort Gordon or about the region. The program we're standing up for K through 12 is called NICER. It really trains your teachers first. The good thing about it is it's free. It's a grant government program. It's a national program that's already approved. The curriculum's already built. So if you have educators who would like to talk about getting that program into K through 12, because if we don't grow them starting now, all these jobs that will come from over there will go to folks who grew cyber professionals at a young age. Questions? Yes, sir.
You have a projected growth for civilian employees?
Yes, sir. So the growth that you see there, the 1,200 folks that are projected come with 3,000 civilian folks, family members, but that 1,200 and the numbers built into the post are both green-suited Army and government service positions. So some of the GS positions are the folks who won't come will be open also. And I don't know if folks are familiar with GS positions, but they get the same type of retirement benefits that a uniformed soldier gets. For instance, I pay $587 all year for my family's health care. $587 for TRICARE Prime for my entire family, all year, one payment, $587. So those GS folks get those privileges too. I think I have a chart though that shows, I think it's this chart. So this reflects some of the growth here. What it doesn't reflect though, sir, is the amount of government contractors that will come associated with this right here. Looking for contracted work, like more folks from AECOM, more folks from General Dynamics. And it's hard to project that because for a while that money, before the old administration was in, the new administration has now tagged that money. So the money is there. So now government contracts and people with businesses will follow because they can follow the money.
What I specifically asking for a civilian employee, I have a granddaughter that's graduating from College of Charleston in computer science and engineering. And I was wondering if there would be possibly any job opportunities for her getting out when she's out of college.
Let me tell you, you can send me directly highly qualified computer engineer folks, resumes, straight to me, and I'll help get them to companies for you in this area. Getting folks who are qualified for a job that there's a need for is easy. So sometimes I get like a dairy farmer and you want me to make them a rocket engineer. I can't do that, but that's low-hanging fruit for me and I'd be glad to help you, sir.
require that they have a security clearance, and a lot of General Dynamics, they post on their sites, you must already have that
Right.
security clearance before they're even considered to apply.
You can get in those doors through an intern security clearance while they're looking at you for clearance. So they can do